Hi people, welcome to Blue UK Jazz Dance. That's me in the Blue Lab. DIY stands for do it yourself. One of the key things I had to learn as a person with disabilities was, first of all, the society is made up not for people with disabilities at all, particularly those with dyslexia. So I can talk from a perspective of being dyslexic. If you go into town and you want to use a computer in any of the libraries, they don't have dyslexia computers. So what happens, you have to understand, it's important that you as an individual learn DIY, and that is what I've learned in my life. How I came to pioneer my own styles, how I came to design and develop my own project. 'Cause this project, Rebirth of the Cool, is the longest project I've been involved in. Who designed it? I did it. Who developed it? I did it. Who evaluates it? I did it. Who monitored it? I did it. Who invested in it? My father, myself, and a few friends have invested in this project. Do you understand? It's basically me navigating through the age of 0 to 41, undiagnosed with dyslexia, undiagnosed with visual stress, undiagnosed with asthma, and the challenges I faced and how I used creativity to overcome the challenges. Cut a long story short, I had an aspiration to go back to university to do a business. For me to do this business and for me to be able to secure funds, I need to get qualifications in business. Have you got that right? Arts management, administration skills for me to do what I was doing. With that vision in mind, I just kept pushing, trying in fact, finding solutions, going on short courses till I developed the confidence to do a foundational course in IT, because I had a lot of problems using the computer, unaware that I needed dyslexic software to use, because that's why I had problems using a computer. Cut long story short, I did a foundational course first in dance. 89 to 91, I went to be a dance teacher in Bedford. 89 to 91, due to racial violence in that city, I had to leave my degree. Not a nice story. And I said to myself, I'm never going back into education. And I was injured from that, through an experience there. Boom. That had an impact on my life as a dancer. So I really started to focus on arts management, administration, helping people do conferences, and I did coaching, mentoring, helping people to get into dance schools, get into theatre. As an individual behind the scenes, that's what I did, do you understand? And did little bits in regards to my dance. Anyway, cut a long story short, I had to make a decision with my future. I wanted to develop myself again as a dancer, promoting my own self, because what happened, my art form, UK Jazz Dance, I was the last dancer in Manchester. No one else was dancing. So that led a long time ago to me flying solo with a new jazzitude, me developing my own sketches, me developing my own plays and involved in other people's events, etc., etc. Has everybody got that? Now, you're in the Blue Lab. This is a picture of my poster that I'm looking to develop. Now, what happens is I'm an artist, so one of the key things is, what am I doing at the moment? My pitch is conceptual. So when you see this, it may not seem like nothing to nobody. What happens is, many artists are out there who are experts in visual learning. I'm an expert in visual learning. Okay, so I'll give you an example. It looks like nothing to nobody, but it is something. It means something very valid in this room, yeah? So let me just go through here. This is my wall. It says DIY. All my life, I've broken my life down into 12 components. 0 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 11. They're the ages. Have you got that? So I've broken my life down into components. And there I talk about one of the key things I was renowned for. I archived myself on video, text, photos. Do you understand? I was an individual in audio. I was an individual from a very young age who used to archive my history, and that was directed by my parents and directed by my tutor, because he wanted to monitor my development. Now sometimes you can't just monitoring development through writing. You can't always do that necessarily. You can write it down, but what helps you, visual information, so like a photograph can tell you. For example, if I did a talk, for example, if I had a video on a presentation and I brought it to my tutor, he could see how well I did. Have people got that right? So how I coach people doing presentations, I tell them, use your mobile. Your mobile, why? Because if you let you see yourself, you yourself can DIY. You can develop your learning yourself, because you can watch yourself and you know if you've done a good speech or not. And then what happens, you can take that video, and I have people I work with today, send me the video of your presentation at school. Then I see it and I can see what to work on. Some people are good at doing presentations, but they have nervousness. So some people have stage fright, for example. I had stage fright. I had everything fright because I was a self-conscious person. I didn't like to hear my voice. I didn't like to hear myself speak because I had a speech impediment. Many people know I have special education needs. You can tell by the way I speak. Yeah? And one of the key things is, as an individual, I do my own work because it empowers me. It keeps my confidence high. As an individual, you learn to engage in your own art form as a leader. So as a leader, you lead yourself first. Then you go on to lead others, and then you go on to lead organizations. My confidence as a leader, a creative culture leader, recognized by the Arts Council of Great Britain, recognized by Oxford Brookes University, recognized by Northwest Arts, recognized by Culture Hub in New York, and various other organizations, has come from me not being at no school. It has come from me DIYing, doing projects, pilot projects, pushing myself to write. I'm going to be a dance leader. I'm going to be a dance coordinator, a dance manager, a dance therapist, a dance writer, a dance fashion coordinator. I pushed myself. I marked out jobs in the field and did them, monitored them, and I had coaches and mentors. So I had videos and photographs, and I do reflective writing to identify what I've learned. I did that because I was a person with special educational needs, and I was a self-learner. So the key thing that I've always had in my life, my parents, both of them, never had a high school education. The way they had to learn, they had to do it through what is called action learning. Now, people need to know action learning is a method. They did it through experiential learning. They taught me. The number one way my parents taught me is through action learning. 2, they brought in coaches, specialist coaches, to develop me, develop my way of learning. So that's what I do today. If I want to do anything, I find a coach, a caring one. I've got no time for individuals who are not caring. That does not help a person with disabilities. So one of the key things I'm renowned for, I've worked with a lot of individuals who have disabilities, and I've empowered them to release and realize their full potential. I've helped people through universities. That's right. I help people for colleges. What I've done, I've kept their confidence high. In going through the learning, I've directed them, because what you do, anybody can learn. You must have a plan to do so. That's all that it is. And what happens is, my mindset is one that is always a mindset I've been given, the philosophies I've given by my parents. Don't let disadvantages be a barrier to learning. And actually, I let the barriers empower me, because many people I've met, you might have a PhD, you might have a degree and masters. At the end of the day, when it concerns developing people, you need to be able to put that in action. Now what happened? People have PhDs on paper, but they can't engage people. They don't know how to navigate people to learn training and development. I know how to navigate people to learn training and development because I spent my time doing that, because I realized academia is good, so I'm not putting it down. But if you don't have people skills, then you're going to have trouble. You have to understand, communication, body language is like 58%. 7% is the words that you use. And you need to have experience. And one of the key things that I invested in, I recognized I had excellent interpersonal skills. And that through dancing and being in the arts, I was meeting a wide range of people. Do you understand? That's why I went back to university, decided I want to do special cultural events management, which are global events. For me to do that, I had to learn arts administration, European arts management, administration, business management knowledge, because I wanted to create my own events. So one of these things is, throughout my life, I've identified learning has always had to be DIY. The first of it, why? 0 to 41, I was undiagnosed dyslexia. I didn't know how to learn. Neither did the people that were teaching me. So what we had to do, we had to experiment, explore and investigate different ways of learning. So I studied all different types of learning. My teachers, Mr. Blackman, my teacher, major teacher, he taught me how different special educational people have learnt. And the irony, we studied dyslexia, but you never thought I was dyslexic, neither did I. And it was partly because I didn't show some of the symptoms of being dyslexic. Do you understand? Because my dad, who is dyslexic himself, was undiagnosed. He doesn't show the symptoms. But if I knew key things about my dad's education, I would have known, that I'm dyslexic. For example, my father is actually originally right-handed. He's not here today, he's gone. He's left-handed, sorry. That's a sign of dyslexia, and he had challenges. But my father was beaten to write with his right hand because back in the day in religions believed that if anybody wrote with the left hand, it was a sign of the devil. So my dad had a lot of trauma in his life. My dad had a lot of trauma like me, because what happens is you get confused in the early stages of the 0 to 6 years. The child gets disorientated. The child is incoherent, because remember, any child growing up has to learn coherency. Any child growing up has to learn coordination. Now, it can be doubly worse for the child who is dyslexic. Do you understand? I was a very clumsy child. You would never believe that I'm a dancer. You'd never believe it. I tell people that. And a story about 2 years ago, I was on a course and I was saying to individuals, you surprise how clumsy I can be as a person. Yeah? And it's to do with the dyslexia, not to do with myself. So one of the key things when they talk about self-accepting yourself as a person with dyslexia, you have to do that. Now, most people cannot do that because people every day, when I went to primary school, every day, people made you feel bad about your special education needs. You're teasing you. So what you can do, you can learn bad traits. Now, through me being in the arts, you have to make yourself vulnerable to learn. And I pushed the boat out. I went to counselling. I've done a lot of things in the sense of me being a dance practitioner people as an individual. I had to go to counselling because I've been a person being bullied. I've been a person being tortured. You have to understand where I've been as an individual, and I know there's many people out there through disabilities who have faced what I've faced, and people who have not been ones with disabilities, but they've faced bullying. Bullying in the UK, I tell you this now, is one of the most worst things that anybody can go through at primary school. One of the worst things you can go through in secondary school. I had to fight my way through school. That's most of my life. I had to fight my way through university. And I was at university 2005 to 10. Elitism on an unprecedented scale. People thought they could talk to you in a derogatory way. They think that you're vulnerable because you have special education needs. I was regarded as an informal learner. Informal learner means I self-taught myself. I don't use the formulas that are out there for people to learn. But the irony of the situation, the person with dyslexia has gifts. They're conceptual thinkers. They use creative thinking, and they use critical thinking, use ethical thinking. Now you have to understand, critical thinking and creative thinking are totally different ways to learn. The person with dyslexia comes from a creative thinking perspective that's totally different from critical thinking. Have you got that? But as a person with dyslexia, what I have is an amazing gift. I'm a conceptual thinker. I conceptualize ideas. So I come with creative thinking. To do creative thinking, people assume that it's unorganized. No. If I want to create a project, I have to involve myself in critical thinking, don't I? So, for example, I want to coach you to be a dancer. I want to control you to be an actor. Or, say, for example, I want you to do a presentation doing creative ways. So we use creative aspects, but I have to do a plan, don't I? I have to have an input. We sit down together. I have to have an input of information, and I have to have an output. What do we want for you at the end of this day? I want you to be confident in every area of your life, socially, physically, intellectually, culturally, emotionally, spiritually. Do you understand? Through this work. I want you to be able to transfer the skills, the knowledge, the experience of working with me to every area of your life. Do you understand? I want you to challenge, at the end of the day, I want you to be able to be accepting of the negative, I want you to be accepting about the way you feel about yourself. Because many people, what they do, they can be their worst enemy. They talk about themselves in a negative way. Have you got that? So it's important that people understand that. So, example, sometimes I am very incoherent, just in general how I talk, because I'm a person with dyslexia. That's how you are. I have to accept myself. But when I go into the arena, so example, if I have to do a presentation, I actually script it, because I know it's essential for me as an individual to speak in the correct manner, to say the right thing in the correct order. So how I describe that to individuals is a script. I'm an actor. I'm a storyteller. Now, in acting, what happens is the script writer gives you a script for you to follow. That is how I do my presentations. Because when you are doing a presentation for an organization, for example, say I represent black artists in education, for example, I'm a black arts and education specialist, it's important that you represent them knowing that it's important for you to be eloquent, coherent. Why? Because you gain respect for that, because eloquency is something that you have to work on. Doing a presentation is not easy for anybody, so people really need to understand this. Part of my work, how I do my presentations, is I do drawings. And these pictures mean something to me. So when I go in here, I'm doing a walk. This picture is about, they show aeroplanes. Basically, I originally wanted to be an RAF pilot, be in the RAF as an aeronautic engineer, etc., etc. Have you got that? DIHY, DIY means do it yourself. Don't rely on others to do it for you. Because you learn something and learn to do it for yourself. Now, one of the key things here, it says, part of my work is people, I'm renowned for flying solo with a new jazzitude. That means I bring new ideas to flying solo. Now, I fly solo with others. Now, to be a pilot, you still have to work alongside others. Nobody works in society by themselves. Have you got that, right? Now, these are pictures of, this is a picture of me flying solo as a dancer. And that one with the cane is one me doing health and well-being. So I have other pictures. Basically, these are pictures I have. And this on the wall, what you see, I've put in together for the designer. So I go to a designer, I've got these pictures, this is how I want the poster to look. Or this is how I want my record cover to look. Have you got? What's the theme? Basically, it's called The Rebirth of the Cool Project. And at the bottom it says Legacy of Leadership. Do you understand? And I put develop new and alternative ways to fly solo. That's what I'm known for. Jazz is constantly always finding new ways, yeah, to develop itself. Do you understand? So like jazz evolved with hip hop. Jazz evolved with soul. Jazz evolved with funk. Jazz evolved with disco. Jazz evolved with calypso. Jazz evolved with salsa. Jazz evolved with mambo. Do you understand? Well, that's the same. I use that philosophy in my life. Okay? Now, one of the key things I told you already, I've broken down this area here is all my life, I've had to be involved in DIY. And that started from a young age. My parents were the architects of coaching me to develop learning for myself. So when I wasn't learning, because my parents never had a high school education, they got me a private tutor. But what they would do is encourage me, son, you have to find a way to learn how to learn for yourself. So one of the key things that people are unaware of, in my primary school, they had wrongly diagnosed me as slow learning. I had to learn for myself. That is my reward. Then secondary, what happened was, again, I didn't have no special education action support in secondary school at all. They put me in bottom classes. I worked my way out of it. Why? One, I had a private tutor, and because my parents told me you can overcome your challenges. And secondly, learn how to learn what they're teaching you. And that's what I had to do. And I ended up in top classes. I was the first ever special education needs student to work themselves out of their class, out bottom classes to the top classes. Can you imagine? Because they gave me an IQ test. That IQ test indicated to them that I was dumb. I didn't believe I was dumb. And what made me believe that was, one of the key things was dance. Okay? Dance was the key thing that identified to me, guess what? You're not dumb. Okay? So this is a picture of me. Okay? This is a picture of me I'm holding in my hand. Dance and sports and arts. I was a leading person in my primary school, ever. In art, in sports, physical education. And what that taught me, I can learn. That's what it taught me. So therefore, I identified to myself, I'm a parent. If you can learn to dance, if you can learn to teach dance, then you can learn how to learn academic study and teach academic study. As people got that, Blue UK Jazz Dance out.